Sugar-free, yay movement in 5-part disharmony. Your silence will not protect you. Audre Lorde. Part 1. Excitable substances. The quest for stimulation, for some form of ecstatic release, is ingrained as a fundamental compulsion desire in the bipedal organism called Homo sapiens sapien. The drive to rapture, to transcendental and metaphysical soaring can be found at the base of all religions. The pushing of the body, spirit, psyche and soul to the extreme limits of its capabilities is a feature of all forms of drug taking. While this search for the miraculous, for the divine or for ecstasy sometimes results in an epiphany, a kind of nirvana, it can also involve irrevocably going beyond the physical, conscious realm and precipitate a fall into the abyss of the void. The risks in such a cosmic game are real. The rewards of eternity, omniscience and omnipotence are palpable, seductive and compelling. The thrill of this play with mind, body and soul is unavoidable. Every society has had to approach the task of how to either inhibit or amplify these drives. Various systems of cultural or political orders have built their power on the ability to control and administer the fabric of this compulsion to transcendence. From shaman to imam, from priest to rabbi, the CEO now reigns supreme in the control of how the search for the metaphysical sublime is packaged into manageable, neat and convenient bite-sized bits that mimic the obsession, compulsion for thrill. That humans rely on external fixes to their inherent metaphysical compulsions is not new. We have long ago found in a range of potent roots, plants, minerals or other elements a range of externalized catalysts for tweaking our chakras, kaiser pranas. That the history of colonialism is tied to the control and administration of substances that excite our senses is not coincidental. From benign substances like sugar, various spices or coffee, to the more flagrantly intoxicating poppy and cocoa with all their alluring derivatives. The establishment of the commodification and trade routes to administer these goods to supplicate insatiable populations in order to pacify, placate and neutralize, but also to fix the point of transcendence and ecstatic rapture in a way that is predetermined and facile. Sugar-free locates itself at this precise juncture. It plays at the interstices of corporeal desire, transcendental ecstasy, and outright commodification and subjectification in order to find the moment and the place in the eye of the storm. At the center of the root of the fractal in the depths of depravity within the capitalist beast, that insists on a radical thought, action and being. Part 2. History is not a straight line. I try to swim every damn day I can, and I've learned to scuba dive and snorkel. Nina Simone. History is written by the victors. The Occident writes global history and writes out other histories. There is no straight line of history. It is not teleological. Genealogies are bullshit. To chart the history of the world, contemporary history is antagonistic to ancient history. We feel in real terms the might of empires that push and pull, that play and insult our lives in the present. Do we get angry enough to do something? We see and hear the atrocities that ensue, constantly, unrelentingly. But do we understand? We witness fascism rise, but continue as if normal. If this is the disdain and cynicism with which we approach the present, how dare we engage with the past? The British Empire has long fallen, but the allure of the ambition of its global conquest lingers on in vagaries of North American imperialism, alchemically modulated into late capitalism's free market. Willing buyers need willing sellers, yes, but we know the price to be paid for impetuous unwillingness. Older empires like those of the Dutch, the Portuguese or the Spanish, seemingly rendered impotent by the march of time, and the burnishing effects of antiquity negate the bloodlust that sustained the profit and plunder that their specific forms of racial supremacy dictated. A return to the flesh of the corpse of the colonial empire is a practice of exhumation. It is to dig again and to sift through the remains of vile and decrepit arrogances and vanities. Bring out your dead, but please, let us be clear. This exhumation must be defended against retrogressive tendencies that wallow in defeatist self-annihilation. No. The function, operation, and purpose of dismembering the cadaver of colonialism is only in order to exorcise the demons that haunt new orbits of power. It is to flush out and purge the toxic residue that history insinuates only in order to search in utterly and flagrantly utopian ways for that which lies outside of history. This is an attempt at immersion into the abyss that exists before, after, inside and around the certainty and security of the historical. Part 3. The map is not the territory. I never wanted to be a part of planet Earth, but I am compelled to be here. So anything I do for this planet is because the master creator of the universe is making me do it. I am of another dimension. I am on this planet because people need me. Sun Ra. The difference between representation and performativity is an important one. To attempt to devise an image of something to construct an approximation by virtue of a series of proxies is at the heart of the project of mimesis. This is to find a way to show the thing when the thing itself is impossible to stand in front of, when the thing itself is absent. Painting at one point in its history attempted to strive towards this function of mimesis. Photography emerged in order to stake a claim of such intense high fidelity of mimesis that painting, quite wisely, moved on to more abstracted concerns. These attempts to reproduce, to present the thing when the thing is absent, is a process of representation. However, we know that this presentation, again, is fraught with the pitfalls of multiple discrepancies. Even digital high-definition photography cannot claim to present again with 100% fidelity. There are always gaps, glitches, short sights, oversights, errors of parallax, falsities of interpolation, distortions and so on and so forth that mediate between the original and the imago, the image of representation. And this even before we get to the role of ideology. I approach the map through this issue of representation, because the map is supremely a representational schematic. Through functions of scale and graphic codes, it establishes in order-specific relations the thing and that which allows us to view the thing in its absence. In this way we can loosely talk of mapping as a conceptual schema that operates to allow access and knowledge about a thing via its proxy. But radical experimental cartographic practice is limited, even as it makes clear its reliance on subjective positioning and it being a function of numerous distortions. A map, on the other hand, a real map as opposed to a conceptual schematic map of a place, of a territory, a route, does something quite different as it neutralizes subjectivity and distortion to masquerade as a function of total vision and knowledge. It will be clear to the reader here that the map can operate in the absence of the thing, but also importantly exists in the obliterating and overwhelming presence of the thing. When you are engulfed, swallowed or immersed in the thing, the map is the life raft that allows and makes possible an over-determination domination of the thing. In this way the conventional map drives towards a God's eye view of the place you stand. Your physical body, freed of corporeal limits, your biological eye exploded by way of scalar projections. You are allowed to see yourself in some kind of Cartesian Google drone omnipotent out-of-body experience projection. Except that we don't have to almost die each time we spin the sphere on Google Earth. Is it a facile jump here to assert the platitude that all maps are political? To once again be the guy who stands up and shouts, maps are ideological. They are not neutral, they are blueprints of representation, oppression. We do not need to be down with conspiracy theories to know that the drone in the sky is watching you. Even though this drone's power is impotent, paltry and weak compared to the potency of your own ability to watch yourself. We truly are our own worst enemies. Part 4. There is no post in the colony. I'm gonna put a curse on you and all your kids will be born completely naked. Jimi Hendrix. The prefix post, indicating after or beyond, is routinely slapped onto words, concepts that command immense and totalizing power. It is a willful marker of desire for termination, an evocation of the end, a putting to bed of disastrous energy and ideology. Let's kill the beast by linguistically or grammatically signaling its closure. Modernism, structuralism, colonialism maintain their perverse hegemony precisely because we have posts to mark the remains of their rotting corpses. Tombstones are sometimes just that, they are tombstones. They stand erect, making any exhumation impossible. No, let us tear down these posts and dig up our dead. Let us take morose delight in the unhygienic operations that ensue in a desperate devouring of unrecognizable cadavers. The thrill is not gone. It just needs to be lubricated, resuscitated and stroked into arousal again. The global south and the fictions, desires, and cliches that come to infantilize Africa, the East, Latin America etc. still remain. More so the ownership of minds and bodies in explicit and overt or implicit and closeted ways persists. Slavery and genocide exist. And I mean to say that they exist in a deadly serious and literal sense. But this is not all. Slavery and genocide exist also in insidious ways couched in politically correct phrases. What is post-colonialism when empires still rule but by different means? Part 5. Music is the weapon. Time for some action, just. Time for some action, just. Time for some action, just. Eric Sermon and Redman. Fela Anikulapo Kuti's famous saying, music is the weapon of the future, taken up by our comrades at Chimmeringer, simply as music is the weapon and soon to be fucked up by Major Lazer in their upcoming album. This phrase is where we would like to take your leave. It is where we will leave you as we attempt to extricate ourselves from the potential of nihilism that lays in wait like the spectral shadow of reason and analytics. The perceived futility of the current predicament of global fuckery is immense. We believe that Fela is correct as he attempts to show us the way towards the light. Like the glittering Nigerian Jesus that this modern-day Messiah meets dancing Shiva creates and destroys the world over and over in endless repetitions and cycles of cosmic turbulence. The beat will continue as the rhythm finally gets you. We arrive here, at the very end, at the place that more accurately should not be described as the beginning. Ecstasy, desire, rapture, transcendence, metaphysical bliss as the body and mind become one with the universe. What else is there left to say? Except to remind you to quietly go fuck yourself and to make sure never to swallow your spit out politeness.